A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you viewers from all around the world. This is your host Vaibhav, and in today's session of JForex Indicator Explained, we will be considering one of the derivative of the moving averages, and this is the derivative of the derivative, and the name is Bollinger Bandwidth. It is a derivative of the Bollinger Bands which we considered in the last session. So this session we will explore more of these Bollinger Bands, Bollinger Bandwidth, and we will see how we can take the indicator into account while making the trading decisions. And for that, all we have to do is head to the JForex platform where we have this tool available to us. All we have to do is quick search, or you can even look in the list. So there are two ways to go about it. If we check the list, you will find this listed amongst the overlap studies. All right, so here it is, just below this Bollinger Bands Fibonacci ratio, which we will consider in subsequent sessions. Today it's the turn of the bandwidth, and for that, the second option, the fastest option, is, as the name suggests, quick search. So that you type in the Bollinger Band, and you will get it. Oh, the platform is not responding. This is, I think, my system's problem, not the platform's problem. All right, it appears. So here it is, and you have to you might have even got an idea that this indicator is not really used to make signaling decisions whether the market is going to go up or to go down. That's not the purpose. This is the indicator which gives us a good idea of the volatility in the current scenario. If there is a higher volatility, then we will have these Bollinger Bands expanding, and this indicator, it basically tries to measure the width between the higher band and the lower band of the Bollinger Band. So we first have to plot the Bollinger Band, and if we have the same formation, same setup, then you can make it out quickly. So for simplicity, for explaining, I will also add the Bollinger Bands with the same input combination. So let's again do a quick search. All right, so here it is, SMMA, and it is based on SMA. So I will change it to make it SMA. Now this is based on 2 standard deviation with the 20 period SMA. Let's look at the editing option. Bandwidth, bulge period is 150, squeeze period is 150, standard deviation is 2, MA type is SMA, Bollinger Bands period is 20. Alright, so here it is. Here you can observe that the upper band is at 1.023 and the lower band is at 1.0164. So we have the bandwidth of 78 pips, and that is what is evident here. So this is how this Bollinger Bandwidth is derived. All right, so it's quite simple. When these bands expand, we have higher bandwidth, and when these bands contract, we have lower bandwidth. So this is a very simple formation. Now let me remove this, and coming back to this setup, we can consider the volatility in the underlying instrument. Where the situation is volatile, it is much better to wait for volatility to subside, to wait for some consolidation to happen in the underlying instrument, and after that we can make the trading decisions. So if we see that there has been significant move in either direction, on the higher side or on the lower side, we can check out for the Bollinger Bandwidth. So it will give an idea of what the current volatility is in respect of the historical terms. Suppose if it has been higher for considerable time, then there will not be any significant change in the Bollinger Bandwidth. But if the volatility has increased recently, that will naturally push the bandwidth range higher. So we will get an immediate idea of what's happening in the market, what is the price structure, and accordingly we can make our mind whether to go long or whether to go short. and to that extent we can rely on these indicators. And apart from that, if the markets have been in a very narrow range, that is also a good indicator of the possibility of the breakout on either side. The markets might break on the higher side or on the lower side, and that is not really the bandwidth prerogative to tell, and we don't really use it for signaling purpose, as I said in my introductory remark as well. But for looking at the consolidation phase, if it has consolidated and if the bandwidth has contracted a lot, then we can use it as a signaling mechanism to keep looking for the breakout, and in whichever direction the breakout happens, we can go for the trade in that direction. So that is the utility of these Bollinger bands, Bollinger bandwidth. All right, and now let us consider its properties. What are the editing options provided on the platform to make the life simpler? So we get these various customization options for us. We can use different applied prices depending on which the plotting will of course change. But there is not going to be significant change in the Bollinger bandwidths even if you use the different applied prices. If I go for the open price, the bandwidth is not really changing much. Let's try out the high price combination. Okay, in terms of the high price, it has expanded and the bandwidth has gone from 70 odd pips to almost 100 pips. So there is a significant change on that front. Now I have changed it to the low price, and here we have this contraction, and now the bandwidth has contracted to only 50 pips. So there is significant change when we are using different applied prices, and median price is 60 pips. Typical price is 65 pips. Weighted close price is 68 pips. All right. Now we go back to the closing price, and of course it will be much different when you use the larger Bollinger Band period. In case of the larger Bollinger Band period, the width is going to be much wider. As the calculation period increases, we will have higher range for that given period of time. So that's quite natural. If I reduce it, then the width will be far less compared to, and even if we compare its historical trend, there will be larger deviation amongst the bandwidth itself when we use lower calculation period for the Bollinger bands, and if we use it on the higher side, then there's a difference. The changes in this bandwidth are going to be much slower. We won't have major changes here, and this plotting, you can see from the curve, it is a lot more smoother. Standard deviation remains at 2, so we are not going to tinker with that. I will change these Bollinger bandwidths to 50. Then coming to the moving average type, we have these all the options provided to us where we can go for the different moving average types, and with these different moving average types we will have significant changes in this plotting of the Bollinger bandwidths. If we go for the EMA, so one by one I will try it out, and please pay attention to this width of the Bollinger band and you will observe a lot of changes there. Now this bandwidth is being calculated using the exponential moving average. So it has been plotted anew. WMA, let's see what happens when we use WMA. No new plotting. All right, then we come to the DEMA. So there is the double exponential moving average. The smoothing is there, but there is significant difference in terms of this plotting, but the larger trend remains the same. When is the contraction going on, then in all the Bollinger band calculations the width will decrease. So apart from little variability, we will have larger trend intact even if we use these different types of EMAs. All right, then we come to the TRIMA. So we have this. Now let's try out Kaufman's moving average. So again, there is some change. Let's see what happens when we use the MAMA. Alright, so the larger trend remains intact. The only thing is some sort of deviation is of course expected as we use different types of moving averages. There will be a lot more smoothing when we use the T3 as the base for calculation of these Bollinger bands. Yeah, as expected. So one by one, I try out all of these moving averages. Let's see what happens with LWMA, is SMMA, and then we come to the bandwidth, bulge period, and squeeze period. So we are considering last 150 candle period worth of data while looking for the bulge period and the squeeze period. So depending on that, there is this variability. Let's try out different combinations. Say I make it 50. Then we consider this total bandwidth for last 50 periods, and in that context we see what is the current bandwidth, so we get a good idea of the current volatility in respect of last 50 hours of volatility. Okay, so you can make out that in the last 50 hours the bandwidth has expanded significantly, and in prior period it was on the lower side. So we get to know the historical perspective, what is happening in terms of the prior prices. So that is the whole reason for considering the prior data, and if we use larger period to make the assessment, then we will have this plotting of the bandwidth in that context. All right, so this range is defined using the 150 hours of data, but this bandwidth it is defined using last 50 hours of data. Okay, now let's see what's there, what are more options. So again I get the editing options on. Now coming back to the output, so we can make it more colorful to make it look more aesthetic. I think even this color combination, it's pretty good. If you simply want to brighten it to somewhat, then all you have to do is brighter color. Apart from that, there is not much wrong with this current plotting also. If you want to change it like this, you can do that. So we have this another style option for this Bollinger bandwidth. Alright, so now it is being plotted in terms of the bar chart. Earlier it was plotted in terms of the simple straight line. If we want to make it pointwise and increase the width, you can do that as well. Let's try a different color, yellow. I think this is a different yellow. Okay, so this is about it. You can increase or decrease this width. Now it is looking a lot more prominent compared to what it was in prior iteration. Now coming to other editing tools, we have these advanced options provided to us. If you want the plotting of these Bollinger bandwidth to be done only once for given candle period, all you have to do is opt for these options, recalculate on new candle only. So only when new plotting is done, we will have this value and it will remain fixed for that particular candle period. All right. Otherwise, it will keep varying for whole of the candle period depending on where it is at the current moment. Now we have this highlight the time period zone. If you opt for it, then the calculation period will be highlighted. So this is being done for the last 150 hours. So we have these all last 150 hours worth of data being highlighted here. All right, so here you can see. Now let's edit it again. We have the customization option also. If you want the calculation to be done from the custom data regardless of the chart values, then we have to go for this checkbox, and here we get this option of defining the instrument, and we have two options here. You can use it from the chart, so whatever is the chart, then accordingly the plotting for the Bollinger Bandwidth will be done for that particular instrument. If you keep it fixed to Euro USD or any other, then the plotting will be done accordingly. Same for the candle period. If you use it from the chart, then whenever you change the chart period, the plotting for the Bollinger Bandwidth will change accordingly. But if you make it fixed for a given candle period, then regardless of the chart period, it will be fixed to that certain value. So that's how this system works. All right. So now this is the chart which has been defined for the hourly time frame, but the plotting of this Bollinger Bandwidth is going to be defined for 15 minutes. Now let's wait few more seconds and you will observe the change. It's taking a little bit of time. Alright, so this is now calculated for 15 minutes of 150 candles. Okay, so this has changed significantly. Now I will restore it to the prior version where we get the calculation from the chart. Same thing applies for this spread side. If you want to use ask or the bait side, all you have to do is go for this side definition, and accordingly it will be done. If you want the plotting to be done on all the candle periods, whenever you change the chart, then you have to keep this box checked. Else, if you opt out of it, then you will see that the plotting will be done for only given candle period, whichever you have opted for, and when you change the chart to another time frame, no plotting will be done. So let's try out one example now. The plotting is for the hourly. Okay, if I change it to say half an hourly, there won't be any plotting of the Bollinger Bandwidth, and a simple plain chart will appear in that scenario. It's taking more time. Let's try out a different combination. 4 hours. Okay, the larger point is that whenever we change this chart time frame, no plotting will be done unless that prior box is checked. So I now restore it to hourly, and here we have this Bollinger Bandwidth plotted again. Alright, so let us again go to the editing toolbox. So here we go to the advanced section, and same thing for this base period. Now let me restore this show indicator on all candle periods. Alright, the base period is anything between these four options given to us: the 4 hours, day, 1 week, 1 month. Okay, so all these options are there for making the Bollinger Bandwidth do the job for us. So you go for a combination which serves your purpose best, and it gives you a good idea of what's happening in the market and how you can make the play. If the condition is showing that there has been consolidation, then you can put some other indicators which will give you the idea of the trend, whether the market sentiment is bearish or bullish, and also you can add some conditions regarding identifying the trend change or a breakout. So with these tools, you will make a good assessment of the breakout and possibility of how far the underlying instrument can move in either direction. So for that, we can use this Bollinger Bandwidth in a reliable manner, and we also get the historical context of the volatility, and we can make a good assessment from that. So that's how these Bollinger Bandwidths can be used. And this session is not exhaustive in its uses. You can always come up with new formations, new combinations, and my purpose is to make you familiar with this indicator. We didn't really go into the calculation phase. We leave the calculation stuff to the JForex platform, which will do the calculation for us. All we have to do is make a good assessment depending on the calculations at hand, and then we can make trade decisions. So that's it from my side for today's session. If you have any query or any idea to share, you can write back to me in the feedback section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. For further developments of the market, do check out the Dukascopy Analytics page. We are also available on the Facebook. You can reach out to us there too for trying out these new features, these cool features of the platform. The link is all there, so do check out my bio. Thank you all for joining in. See you next time around with a new indicator, with a new formation. Till then, goodbye.